Some shelters look like fortresses. Some look like cardboard boxes. This is every zombie shelter design ranked from the one that kills you in hours to the one that costs $3 million and actually works. 90% of people, when the dead start walking, will lock their front door, drag the couch against it, and call that a fortress. That couch is doing more work than the walls. Standard stick frame construction gives you half-inch drywall and a hollow core interior door that buckles under roughly 80 pounds of sustained pressure. That's not a horde. That's one determined infected and some bad luck. Vinyl siding, timber studs, and drywall aren't shelter specs. They're gift wrapping. The same construction codes that make your home cozy in January make it catastrophically transparent to anything that doesn't respect property lines. Survival guides list, lock your doors as the floor of preparation, not the ceiling. That's the bar. Ankle height. This guy went from homeowner to zombie appetizer without changing a single thing about his Tuesday. If you're counting on 4 walls and a deadbolt against a sustained horde on day 1, you're not surviving the week. F tier. The shopping mall. Acres of food, a food court, backup generators, and enough square footage to house a small city. Dawn of the Dead made it look genius. Survival experts unanimously call it a death sentence. The Galleria Dallas alone covers 1.6 million square feet with 50 to 120 entry points. Doors, loading docks, skylights, service corridors, ventilation shafts. You cannot seal that with a weekend crew and good intentions. Glass storefronts offer zero structural resistance, making everyone a polite suggestion to the infected. And the resources that make it appealing to you make it equally appealing to every desperate survivor within 20 miles. Your external threat and your internal threat arrive simultaneously, just wearing different shoes. Survival guides explicitly name the mall as the protagonist's worst instinct, not a hidden trap. A documented, famous mistake people keep making anyway, apparently because the food court smells like Auntie Anne's. You became a zombie buffet because of free parking and a Cinnabon. F tier. The attic. Classic move. 60 seconds of vertical thinking that feels like genius until you're sitting on insulation bats with a pull-string ladder, no food, no water, and 400 zombies directly beneath your feet with nowhere else to be. The attic offers 0 square footage for supplies, 1 entry point that doubles as your only exit, and a floor made of drywall, the same half-inch material that stops nothing. The zombie doesn't need to breach it. They just need to wait. And patience is apparently the one trait the undead have perfected. We go up, and we wait them out. Nobody who said that made it to episode 2. Elevation buys you minutes, not days, not a plan, minutes. F tier. New plan, same problem, except this one smells like a New York City maintenance tunnel and has roughly 472 ways in. The New York City subway runs 245 miles of active track beneath 472 stations, connecting to thousands of service shafts, ventilation grates, and utility access points at street level. Every single one is an entry point you cannot monitor, cannot barricade, and apparently forgot existed when you climb down there. No natural light. No sight lines past 50 feet. Choke points every 100 yards funneling anything moving directly toward you with geometric precision. The subway feels strategic, underground, hidden, away from the zombie. But every tunnel entrance that hides you also hides whatever followed you in. You traded open-air exposure for a concrete corridor with exactly one direction to run. We go underground. They can't find us underground. They absolutely can. They just walk. Going underground doesn't reduce your exposure to the infected. It concentrates it, removes your exits, and turns the lights off. F tier. The locked car. 4 doors, climate control, working locks, and the psychological comfort of feeling like you're doing something by driving away from it. Here's the thing. A standard car window is laminated safety glass rated to shatter under roughly 60 lbs of focused impact. 1 infected fist. Repeated. That's your wall. A full tank gets you 300 to 400 miles before the shelter becomes a very aerodynamic cage. And that's assuming the highway isn't already a parking lot of cars driven by people who had the exact same idea 3 hours before you. Just get in the car. We drive until we find somewhere safe, until the gauge hits empty. Then you're sitting in a glass box on a dead road. Mobile, yes. Temporary, obviously. Fortress, absolutely not. C tier. High-rise apartment. Floor 40, panoramic city views, concierge lobby, and the quiet confidence of someone who genuinely believes altitude is a defense strategy. Here's the thing. Elevator shafts become vertical highways once the power cuts out, which it will, roughly 72 hours into any grid collapse scenario. The stairwells are worse, narrow, echo-heavy kill funnels, where a 20th floor resident passes 19 floors of compromised units just to reach the street. And the street is exactly where you are trying to avoid. A standard glass curtain wall apartment runs about 60% glass exterior, rated for 120 MPF winds. Not rated for repeated blunt force impact from multiple directions, apparently a different engineering concern nobody planned for. No rooftop access on most residential towers, no food production, no water once pressure drops, beautiful sightlines over a city you can no longer reach. We're safe up here. Nothing can get to us, until the stairs fill up and the view is the last thing you see. D tier. The farmhouse, the one that started the whole argument. George Romero's 1968 Night of the Living Dead gave us the boarded-up Pennsylvania farmhouse as the original zombie shelter template: solid wood construction, rural isolation, low undead foot traffic. A small group boards the windows, blocks the doors, and buys themselves approximately one night. And that's the problem: one night. The farmhouse itself isn't actually terrible. Wood frame construction is no reinforced concrete, but boarded windows add meaningful resistance. Rural positioning means lower horde density. The 1968 house had maybe a dozen entry points, realistically manageable by a group of 7. But here's the thing, that group of 7 couldn't manage each other. By dawn, internal conflict had killed more survivors than the zombie outside. Arguments over escape strategy, hierarchy, and trust collapsed the defense faster than any breach. The shelter held. The people didn't. That's the farmhouse problem in one sentence: structurally adequate for a short siege, but zero redundancy when your biggest threat turns out to be the guy next to you hoarding the ammunition. As somehow, the undead were the most cooperative ones in the building. This leads us directly upward into structures with more square footage, more supplies, and unfortunately, way more doors. C tier. Walmart figured this out before the apocalypse did. 100,000 square feet of food, medicine, tools, generators, and camping gear under one roof. Genuinely impressive. And then you notice the loading dock. Big box stores run on roll-up steel doors, each roughly 9 feet wide and 10 feet tall, rated for forklift clearance, not sustained crowd pressure. A standard Walmart supercenter has 6 to 8 of those docks facing outward. One breach converts your supply depot into a 100,000 square foot infected arena with no interior walls to slow anything down. The supplies that make it attractive are exactly what make it indefensible. Other survivors will come. Conflict arrives before the horde does. The loading dock is both your best feature and your obituary. D tier. The rooftop camp solves exactly one problem and solves it well. Zombies can't climb. That vertical gap between you and the horde is real, immediate, and genuinely satisfying for about 48 hours. Then the weather arrives. A standard flat urban rooftop gives you zero insulation, zero windbreak, and roughly 40 inches of annual rainfall exposure depending on your city. No water collection means rationing whatever you carried up. No food source means the clock started the moment you pulled that ladder. And that ladder, your single point of entry, is also your only exit. One blocked access point and the rooftop stops being an advantage and becomes an elevated coffin with a view. Vertical is only useful if you can eventually come back down. C tier. Rural farmstead. Open land in every direction, no neighbors within a quarter mile, and sightlines that let you see trouble coming from 500 yards out. Sounds almost competent. And genuinely, low population density is a real advantage. Fewer infected in rural counties means day one looks manageable. You've got potential food production, well water, and enough acreage to feel like you're doing this right. But then look at what you're actually defending. The average wood frame barn in America was built between 1920 and 1960, uses dry timber construction, and sits surrounded by hay bales, nature's kindling. Zero perimeter fencing means the sightlines that protect you in daylight become an open invitation after dark. One infected with a lantern, One lightning strike, one bad decision, and your entire shelter is ash in under 20 minutes. The problem is that location is doing all the work. The structure itself contributes almost nothing. Great real estate. Terrible fortress. C tier. The houseboat gets points. Most shelters don't. The water does the heavy lifting. No ground level breach, no zombie pressure testing your walls at 3 a.m., no mob accumulating outside the door. That part is genuinely smart. But here's the thing. The average recreational houseboat runs about 400 square feet, a studio apartment that leaks. No soil means zero agricultural capacity. You're burning fuel to stay positioned, and the average tank gives you maybe 50-80 hours of generator power before you're floating silently in the dark, hoping nothing learned to doggy paddle. Then there's the noise problem. A running engine is a dinner bell for every survivor and raider within 2 miles. Quiet means drifting. Drifting means losing control of your position entirely. You got the ocean as your moat. That's the dream, right? Sure. Until you run out of diesel and the dream becomes a very slow-moving target. The moat is real. Everything supporting it is not. Gay. Great concept. Borrowed time? C tier. From the houseboat, we move up a notch and into the suburbs, which sounds like progress. The walled suburb or HOA compound. The logic is solid on paper. Pool 20 to 30 homes inside a shared perimeter wall, and suddenly you've got distributed food storage, multiple water sources, redundant sleeping quarters, and enough warm bodies to run a proper watch rotation. Some HOA communities already have walls. Somebody planned for this accidentally. The numbers work too. A standard HOA perimeter wall runs 6 to 8 feet of masonry, legitimate deterrence. 30 homes averaging 2,000 square feet gives you 60,000 square feet of usable interior space. That's real capacity. But here's the thing, one breach. A single compromised section of shared wall and the entire compound floods from one entry point. Every house behind it is now just a room in the same infected building. The strength is the community. The weakness is also the community. Specifically, the guy who forgot to patch the east wall in 2019 because the HOA meeting ran long. We're stronger together. Sure, until you're not. Solid concept. Single point of catastrophic failure. C tier. Now we're getting somewhere interesting. A prison complex sounds almost too good to be true. Reinforced concrete walls, existing guard towers, razor wire perimeter fencing that already cost the government millions to install. The West Georgia Correctional Facility from The Walking Dead runs roughly 100,000 square feet of hardened infrastructure. Concrete cells with steel doors rated to contain actual human beings. Guard towers with 360-degree sightlines. Multiple internal security checkpoints. On paper, this is the first entry on this list that makes a survival architect genuinely excited. But here's the thing. The same institution designed to keep dangerous people in was also, on day one, housing approximately 1,500 of them. Inmates, staff, corrections officers, all sealed inside an airtight perimeter when the outbreak hit. Your fortress came preloaded with its own internal horde before a single external zombie touched the fence. This place is as good as anywhere. Rick Grimes said that while actively clearing cell block C of walkers already inside the wire, and somehow that's the optimistic version of events, the perimeter is genuinely elite. The clearing operation required to make it livable is essentially a second apocalypse happening in your living room. Outstanding walls, catastrophic move. In condition, is B tier. Cowboys Stadium holds 80,000 screaming fans, and, apparently, it can hold a lot more than that if you count the structural concrete shell, the 3 million square feet of enclosed space, and the elevated press boxes sitting 30 feet above field level. That's real defensive real estate. Underground storage tunnels, sealed loading docks, and a roof rated for serious Texas weather. But here's the thing. That same cavernous square footage designed to swallow crowds will swallow your 12-person survivor group like a footnote. You cannot hold a perimeter the size of 6 city blocks with a rifle and good intentions. Incredible bones. Absolutely zero chance of holding it. C tier. Now we're getting into shelters that actually make strategic sense. And the island retreat sounds like exactly that, a genius move. Surrounded by water on all sides. No ground approach, no vehicle ramming the front gate, zero zombie swim team in any outbreak scenario on record. An island with even a modest perimeter of 200 meters of open water functionally eliminates the entire ground assault problem that killed every entry below rank 14. And people have actually done this. Private islands in the Caribbean average 10 to 200 acres, enough space for agriculture, rainwater collection, and real perimeter visibility. No horde of thousands slowly pressing against your fence line at 3 a.m. But here's the thing, your island is exactly as safe as the last supply boat you cleared. One infected crew member, one unscreened passenger, one panicked neighbor paddling over at night. The ocean doesn't stop the virus, it just makes you feel like it does. D tier. Now, abandoned military bases. Fort Irwin, Fort Erd. Hundreds of decommissioned installations across the United States with reinforced concrete perimeters, pre-existing armories, vehicle bays, and communications infrastructure that civilian builders would spend decades trying to replicate. And the Army basically just walked out and left them. Here's the thing, abandoned is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. Stripped armories mean the guns are already gone. Deferred maintenance means perimeter fencing, once rated for a military breach, is now rated for whatever rusted through it between 1995 and today. No active power grid means your communications, lighting, and security systems are decorative. A base that housed 10,000 personnel needs those same 10,000 people to actually function as a defensive position. But the bones are genuinely impressive. Reinforced concrete motor pools, blast-rated structures, and pre-surveyed defensive perimeters don't vanish just because the power does. You're inheriting a mansion someone stripped of all the furniture, windows, and plumbing right before the apocalypse. B tier. Now this is where the tier list stops being theoretical. Converted castles, and there are over 2,000 of them in the UK alone, many available as private residences, were engineered by people whose entire civilization depended on not dying behind a wall. Stone masonry running 6 to 10 feet thick, a single fortified gate designed to absorb battering rams, natural elevation that forces attackers to climb toward defenders. A zombie horde generating zero siege equipment, zero strategy, and zero patience for structural engineering is, honestly, a step down from what these walls were built to stop. Then you spend your first winter inside and realize 900-year-old infrastructure predates antibiotics, refrigeration, and functional plumbing by several centuries. No water treatment, no climate-controlled medical storage, agricultural output from a courtyard roughly the size of a parking lot. The walls will outlast the apocalypse. Your insulin supply apparently will not. FB built to repel armies. Defeated by a vitamin C deficiency, A tier. Now we're dropping below the castle's medieval stonework into something you built on a YouTube tutorial and 60,000 of borrowed confidence. Prefab HDPE culvert bunkers, sold by companies like Atlas Survival Shelters, run between $35,000 and $75,000 installed. You get blast-rated steel doors, corrugated polymer walls rated for soil compression at standard residential burial depth, and a sealed air filtration system advertised for 6 months of independent oxygen supply. On paper, that's genuinely impressive. You are literally invisible to the undead. The threat profile drops to almost zero from outside. The threat profile inside, though, is a different conversation. A single blocked intake, a miscalibrated CO2 scrubber, one HEPA filter clogged by soil moisture, and the same airtight design that kept zombies out starts quietly suffocating you instead. Your fortress becomes a sealed coffin that nobody above ground can hear you knocking inside. You didn't just trap the zombies out, you trapped yourself in, with the one variable you can't control, your own equipment failing on month 3. Impenetrable from the outside, less reassuring from the inside. SSB tier. Now, if the underground bunker's big weakness is the equipment inside, the offshore oil platform flips that problem outward. The ocean does the defending for you. A working semi-submersible like Deepwater Horizon's sister rigs sits roughly 50 miles offshore. No land bridge, no swimmable distance, helicopter. Only access means any incoming threat gets vetted at 120 MPAs before it touches the deck. The structural steel is rated for Category 5 hurricanes, more punishment than any horde delivers. By almost every perimeter metric, you are untouchable. But the platform doesn't grow food. it doesn't generate fuel indefinitely. It was designed for rotating crews of around 100 people on 21-day resupply cycles, meaning the ocean that protects you also starves you on day 22 if no helicopter returns. When the diesel runs out, heating, desalination, and lighting go with it. The ultimate natural moat, completely dependent on the civilization that just ended to keep it running. Fortress for the first 3 weeks. Slowly expensive mistake after that. A tier. And then we get to the one that ends the list, the only way it deserves to end. The survival condo in Kansas is a converted Atlas F missile silo. Units sell between 1.5 million and 3 million. The walls are 9 feet of reinforced concrete. The blast door is rated for a near-miss nuclear strike, not a zombie horde, an actual nuclear weapon. There's a 5-year food supply, an indoor aquaponic farm, a medical center, and a cinema. This thing was engineered to survive events that kills countries. Here's the thing, the undead are genuinely the least threatening item on this building's risk matrix. The structural concerns are exclusively nuclear, geopolitical, or which neighbor you're stuck with for 5 years. Obviously it costs 3 million. Survives everything. Obviously only about 75 people on the planet live inside one. The rest of us spent this entire list debating whether a farmhouse beats a houseboat, while these people already filed their change of address form to a missile shaft in Kansas. Every entry on this list had a flaw, a breach point, a timer, a dependency. This one doesn't. Structurally flawless. Financially delusional. The only zombie shelter already built before zombies were the problem. S tier. Subscribe to this channel for more tier lists. See you next time.